So there was a Shakespearean actor that he went around the U.S. and he did a one-act show. And at the end of every show, he would do Psalms 23. He would go on to cite it, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And people would applaud and they'd clap and they would be very touched. And so one particular time, a young actor came up to him and said, "Would you mind this evening if I do it? If I get up and do Psalms 23? And so he said, "Well, sure, yeah, no problem." So the young man gets up, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And he goes on to finish it to its entirety, and the Shakespearean actor looked around and people are weeping. And he said, "How did you do that? How did you do that? I mean, I am an expert. I am an orator. I speak. I have it memorized. Psalms 23. And he said, "And you did something I've never been able to do." And he looked at him and he said, "Well, you know Psalms 23, but I know the shepherd." You know, you understand that space, that emerging self. It's one thing to know a song. It's another thing to do what was just done to us with our musicians today, because it's that shepherd vibration. It's that energetic presence. It's one thing for people who quote the Bible all over the world. It's another thing to work with a Bible that teaches you practical application. I am so grateful to move from a Southern Baptist type of teaching to come to a place of new thought that calls me forth out of myself to actually do something with the learning that I'm getting, other than just telling people I read something last night and have a nice day. You with me on that? With me? And I feel so fortunate in my life that I've had people that are mentors that have taken time, that by the way they live or the way that they speak, that from the very nature of knowing them or sitting with them or hearing about them, that it transformed me forever. Do you know how huge that is? When you have an encounter with somebody and it changes your life forever. Wow. Big stuff. You know, I love being with people that we do namaste and, I've always enjoyed people in my life that actually got me right away and actually thought I was a very nice person or whatever. But you know who I adore equally is the people that push me to my core. People go, "Who are you? Who do you think you are?" Okay? No, I'm for real. Because I tuck my ego in and I go, "Well, let me discover who I think I am." You understand that? You understand that? And those kind of moments and encounters that you've had in your life of people that may not see you for who you are, they force you to see you for who you are. And it is so immense and so powerful. I love the little story about the baby mosquito that's been in training. And so the community sends him all out. And he comes back and his father said, "Well, how did it go, son?" He said, "It went great. Everybody out there was clapping for me." I know, really. So my father was a workaholic. I have some of that imprint in me. Recovery has helped me somewhat. He was a workaholic, and so his father's skills were more about clapping for me on the sidelines, or not being available to come to the games or the experiences or moments in my life. But he was there clapping. But one of the things that always triggered him was my being involved in a weird kind of church thing. And then going on to be a preacher of a weird kind of church thing, well, that just almost put him over the top. But I heard Edwin Gaines say many years ago that her father never connected with that part of her until the first time that he came and he heard her preach. And her dad came up to her at the end and said, "I get you now. And in that moment, in that memory, I went, that's going to happen to me. I'm going to pray that in. And so years passed, my father came to my ordination. He was there, he's kind of fascinated. You know, I think he was fascinated that we actually had people there. I don't know, he was just fascinated. He was just fascinated by the whole thing. I look at it, I had him across the room clapping. There wasn't a person that day he didn't say, that's my daughter. That's my daughter. And he came up to me at the end and he said, I get you now. I get you now. So in your soul, do you get you now? Because the day will come, you will be heard, and you will know, and you will feel it. So I'm referring to mentor stories today, but they're stories that are part of all of our communities, of all of our lives. And though you may not know who I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And I think of Reverend Allen, the former senior minister here. He was like Moses. I called him Moses. He was the calmest human being I've ever met in my life. I mean, I look like fire compared to his calmness. I love him for bringing me back in ministry. He invited me here, and I told him no. He invited me again, and I told him no. He invited me again. I took an hour and a half telling him no. And he said, well, come meet with our board because we'd really like you to come on our team. I honor him for that. He saw something. He wouldn't accept no for an answer. There are people in your life like that, you see. But what he really modeled for me was Psalms 46:10. I'm going to step over here because there's something in that Rimple energy somewhere. Something's happening over there with some kind of spirits, and they're speaking I mean, bilingual English and Southern. I got my hands full before I even get started. But anyway, so, you know, he taught me how to live 46:10. That's who Reverend Allen was. Because he taught me it was be still and know that I am God. A lot of people leave the that out. I think because they avoid the that in their lives. Or they want to get past it so quick so they can get to the God part. You understand what I mean? Say it together. Be still and know that I am God. That's a powerful reality when you come to understand with a welcoming heart the that that's in your life right now. How many of you have a that in your? You were talking about it this morning. I'll feel better when that is different. That. Oh, we got 100 that's over there. Going once, going twice. Soul. No. It would be that, 95% of the life would be beautiful, but my energy would get the that. Oh, it's that. And what I learned from watching that observation and that calming of spirit, that was the richest thing I could face in that particular day, because as I would sit with it, as I would ponder it, as I would explore it, as I would welcome it, rather than just wanting it to get out of my life, I was able to integrate a new aspect of my life. Be still and know that I am God. God is in that too. God is in what you're judging. God is the conditions that you're calling wrong. God is in the things that you call pain. God is in the thing of your family memory. God is there. And a new identification of the that will set us free. As I've said before, the only thing that stops us in our humanity is our inability to forgive ourselves. Right? So, Reverend Allen, thank you for that. And thank you for mentors that push us. I was reading the other day of a funny story about people who set good intentions. And it's a story of a guy that in 2014, he looked in the mirror and said, I need to religiously dedicate myself. I weigh 200 pounds now and I need to lose some weight. And in 2015, he looked in the mirror and said, I think I need to change the way I identify with my body. In 2016, he said, I'm going to dedicate myself 5 days a week to go to the gym. In 2017, he said, I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week. In 2018, you wonder what he's saying now? Thank you for asking. He's saying, I'm going to make a point to drive by the gym. But you see, we always, every one of us, we have this space that a little push, a little clapping, a little moment can transform us to actually get into motion and to get going, you see. It can move us forward. It can grow us in a greater way. I'm grateful for Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey is the greatest Bible reading, some of it that I've ever done in my life, because he taught me how to change the habits that were creating the same results over and over in my life and calling them different. He taught me the value of being a principle-based person, not a money-based person that I had been at one time, not a need-to-be-liked person that I had been at one time, but to really ground into being a principle-based person, that because of that very nature of centeredness, I would know the components and the value of what ultimately really mattered in my life, and the energy of that it would be permanent, not just temporary. And to hold a vision of the end in mind, because it is there, and because you hold it in mind and in your consciousness, you wake up one day and you are there in the totality of that new reality. I was saying last night at the Arts 464 program we had here, it was amazing what Becca McCoy put together here. And I was saying as artists, so many of them live in this place of, I'm waiting on my dreams to come true. I'm waiting on my dreams to come true. With cause and effect, it puts out there, we're always waiting. We'll always be waiting. But when we step over here and we say, my dreams are waiting on me to come true. My dreams are waiting on me to come true. What happens is my energy changes. What I'm holding changes. My story changes. Because I'm already that which I'm waiting on. And therefore, when it comes, I see it because I recognize it. It's not something so far-fetched that I'm worshiping an idea that's never going to happen. Right? So it's a whole different kind of reality, because if we keep showing up like we're going to be on Broadway, even though we have no idea how we're going to get there, but we hold what it would be like, we feel it, we are there. You see, I'm confident Becca McCoy will be there too, and will remember the story about her, for sure. I love the story of John Goddard, that when I was like 20-something years old, I read the story of John Goddard's life, that when he was a young boy, all he heard, according to him, was older people talking about their regrets, because they wish they had done a lot of things that they didn't do. He made note of that. And as a young man, he wrote down 127 things that he wanted to achieve in his life. And I'm talking about climb the highest mountains in the world, milk a poisonous snake. I'm not talking about, going to a class or teaching something. I'm talking big stuff. And it transformed me. I made a list of the 100+ things I wanted to achieve. Now, John Goddard, when he died, had achieved, I believe it was 117 of those things. His son couldn't prove a couple of them, but he wrote them down. And here in my 20s, I wrote that list. The paper's yellow, but I go back now and I go, wow, check, that happened. That happened. If you don't have that kind of list and you're make it. But make it worth writing. Make it memorable. Make it something that you're going to stretch or you're going to grow into. I'm grateful for the mentors of Gandhi and Martin Luther King. I think they deserve a clap. I'm grateful to them. I'm grateful for every quote they've ever done. It's as fresh and as new and teachable in the moment as it was the moment that they made it, because they were warrior archetypes. They had a presence and a position and a communication power that left us spellbound and still does. But more importantly, they understood the difference in life between a rearview mirror and a big car windshield. So many people live their lives looking out their rearview mirror of what used to be. Instead of the forward design of the larger vision right in front of you, they did not let history define them. They let it describe them, and then they went on to define how they would want history to be. Powerful powerful reality. And that I give thanks to the way that they changed us. And they made us think about that we are all part of this thread called life. And because of the civil rights movement, it has brought forth so many other rights and a domino effect. Are we there yet? No. But have we come a long way in 30 and 40 and 50 years? Absolutely. Because they were willing. A great energy of seeing something and not just talking about it, but actually doing something about it. I'm grateful to Ernest Holmes, who taught me as the founder of the Science of Mind. Ernest Holmes used to teach weekly to thousands of people every week in California. And every Sunday he would be in the back and he shook every hand that came in the room or hugged them. He brought life down to earth, you see. In every restaurant, he didn't have waiters. He didn't have people serving him. He knew their names. He didn't just look at a prostitute. He said, do you want to change your life? And I'm going to help you. He made a difference in every person mattering in that moment to him, you see. And it was a huge lesson for me to understand that. I've never been in a restaurant that I couldn't tell you the waiter's name. And who's the chef, and thank you for the food. Because in that moment, everybody is creating that sacredness for all of us. We're not entitled. We carry a title of being God's difference makers. And we worship because people see us, they identify. And if you haven't clapped for yourself lately, clap. Give yourself a great big clap. Give yourself a great big energy. And give yourself a standing ovation right now. Give yourself a standing ovation. Get up out of those seats. And thank the Lord that thought enough to make you. And thank the law that thought enough to create you. And thank yourself enough that you made it through. And know within your heart, if you made it through that, you can make it through anything. Keep clapping. Keep clapping. Clap for yourself. Who you are. Woo! What I love about you is you love you. And that makes me clap big. Thank you. Thank you.